Do you remember Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Dee Dee Blanchard? Do you remember watching the documentary about them or the miniseries that was on Hulu? This is the story of the mother who had Munchausen by proxy syndrome and convinced her daughter and convinced the world until she was in her 20s that her daughter had all these different ailments, had to get her surgeries and this and that, and it was all made up. Eventually, Gypsy and her boyfriend snapped and killed her mom, but I would say, honestly, very rightfully so.
Yeah, thank you for going in that direction.
Dee Dee
I wasn't
Blanchard,
sure which way you were going to go.
Dee Dee Blanchard was a horrible human being who deserves to not live and breathe air because she was a horribly cruel mother to her daughter. Well, I think, honestly, natural selection did its thing. And she didn't die naturally, but I think people, when they get fed up and they're abused so far, you're going to get this sort of reaction. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. In a recent announcement from the Missouri Department of Corrections, as reported by Ozarks First and the Springfield News-Leader, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, previously convicted for her part in her mother's murder, has been granted parole. She's scheduled for release December 28th of 2023. Gypsy will have completed nearly 85% of her decade-long sentence by then. This case has remained in the public's consciousness not just due to its chilling nature, but also because of its portrayals in multiple documentaries and series. We'll go back to July of 2016. Gypsy, who's now 32, admitted her guilt in a harrowing killing of her mother, Clauddine Dee Dee Blanchard. The judicial system handed down a 10-year prison term. Before this, Gypsy had also spent some time in Greene County Jail, which is credited towards her overall prison time. The backdrop to this disturbing case, in case you don't remember it, and I highly recommend the documentaries and the drama. It's all very, very interesting. Dee Dee Blanchard's lifeless body was discovered in June of 2015, leading authorities to swiftly charge both Gypsy and her then-boyfriend, Nick Gajian, with first-degree murder. As investigations progressed, a disturbing narrative surfaced. Dee Dee had manipulated everyone from family members to friends and the wider community into believing that her daughter was a terminally ill teenager with a cognitive capability of a 7-year-old, battling multiple diseases, including muscular dystrophy and leukemia. Adding to the twisted tale, Gypsy recounted that her mother silenced her during medical consultations, issuing warnings that escape attempts would be futile as law enforcement wouldn't credit her accounts. Reflecting on her turbulent past in the 2018 documentary Gypsy's Revenge, Gypsy divulged, "I couldn't just jump out of a wheelchair because I was afraid and I didn't know what my mother would do. I didn't have anyone to trust." After her sentencing in 2016, she confided in Dr. Phil McGraw, "I don't believe I deserve as many years as I got. I believe firmly that murder is not okay, but I also understand why it happened, and I don't believe that I'm in the right place to get the help that I need." Her boyfriend, Goat John, also 32, faced a different fate in 2019, reported by KY3 and KOAM that his life sentence without the parole possibility is what he's currently dealing with. This stemmed from his indisputable role in the 2015 stabbing. Goat John, who met Gypsy online and journeyed from Wisconsin to be with her in Missouri, reminisced about his time in the 2019 prison interview for Oxygen, a special Gypsy Rose and Nick, A Love to Kill. Several of these I've never seen. Those 5 days were the most intense, magical, and awe-inspiring days I've ever had, he claimed. I don't know that those would be the right words to describe when you went and killed someone. But yeah. Hey, I don't think he got out much either. And I think he has a ridiculously low IQ and probably should not be in jail for the rest of his life. I think he was doing what he thought was right and honestly saving probably Gypsy Rose's life. However, the relationship between Blanchard and Go John has since fizzled out. People magazine was informed by a close family friend in April 2019 that Gypsy had found new love, becoming engaged to a man she got to know while incarcerated. That's got to be an interesting one. If you want to go back to the original doc, HBO is where it is. Mommy, Dead, and Dearest. It was the inspiration for Hulu's miniseries, The Act. And as you heard, there's plenty other out there that I now am going to Google after this because I'd like to see them as well. But yes, finally, she is getting out. I think that's good. And I hope she's able to get the mental health help that she needs. I have no idea what she's been getting in prison, but this is someone who should have been getting that mental health help immediately because she was a victim of extreme abuse. And I disagree that she should have ever been locked up to begin with.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And I think I've shared kind of my twisted and weird background a couple of times. I didn't undergo a ton of abuse from my dad, but my brothers did. Mm-hmm. And I will never forget, there was one evening where we were down in our basement. My dad had just hit me. And I was like 5 or 6 at the time, the only girl in the family. And my dad used to beat the living shit out of my brothers. And I saw it all the time, but he never touched me. One day he did. He hauled off and hit me. And that was a bridge too far for my brothers. We were down in the basement plotting to kill my dad. And I think unless you've been in that kind of situation, it's really hard to understand. You know, you might want to look at somebody as cold-blooded killers, things like that. I can relate to the Menendez brothers like nobody's business.
Yeah.
You know, just if you're exposed to things like that and nobody will step in, like my aunts and uncles and cousins, they all saw what a shit person my dad was. Nobody fucking did anything. Mm-hmm. So when things get really bad, at some point you kind of snap and go, nobody's going to save us but us. Well, so we need to do something.
It's survival is what it is. Yep. And then when people start, well, there's other, sometimes there's just not. Sometimes
there wasn't.
Yeah.
We were in school. We had neighbors. We had family members. We had members of religious organizations who also saw what a fucknut my dad was. Nobody did a fucking thing in Aberdeen, South Dakota. I'm just going to say that. They all saw it. Nobody did anything. So for us to be down in the basement plotting to kill my dad, that was the only thing that we thought we had possible at our disposal. We never did it, obviously. Yeah. But to get in that mindset, man, do I understand it. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, you get pushed so far, it comes down to survival. Someone is being evil towards you and has no regard for you, only themselves. That's what one is going to do when there's no other options. And that really seems to be what happened here with, Dee Dee Blanchard. That child, even though she was a young adult at the time, she would have ended up dying under the care of Dee Dee if she stayed in that house. Without a
easily,
doubt.
She would have done something. I mean, she had people convinced that she had leukemia, muscular dystrophy. Where were the doctors? How were they not seeing this?
Well, that's another crazy part of the whole story is the procedures that she had done over the years when they weren't even needed. And that's where I look at the going, isn't the doctor supposed to step in here at some time and say, there really is no need for this? Like, what are we?
I would hope so.
Why? But if you just keep pushing, well, they feel this way. Well, maybe we'll try this, try that. I don't know. But I think that should have, I think it has been looked at actually a little bit closer. But overall, just a utterly chaotic situation. Ended up punishing people simply trying to survive and get away from their abuser. And that's how the story ended, or that's where it's left right now with she's about to get out, but her accomplice, the one who thought he was, trying to save her life, in jail for the rest of his life. And really, this is a kid that isn't playing with a full deck. He's got some mental health problems, I think, just naturally. And this is not, it's inhumane, I think, the way this whole thing went down.
Yeah, and it feels that way. He was trying to do a good thing. And, we don't want to ever say that taking somebody's life is a good thing. But in this case, that was the only way to save this poor girl. And I get it. I totally get it. It's not right. But the way she was living wasn't right either.
You're locked into the Hidden Killers podcast.
Want more? Start binging on all of our true crime podcasts right now through Apple Podcasts and get an ad-free experience when you sign up to be a True Crime Today Premium Plus member, exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast, dropping soon.
Press subscribe now.